From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, July the 22nd, 2024. The IDF today announced that it had confirmed the deaths of 2 hostages in Hamas captivity in Gaza, 76-year-old Alex Danzig and 35-year-old Yagev Buchstav, saying the confirmation of their deaths comes after thorough intelligence review. The circumstances of their death are still being examined. Danzig was a Holocaust educator and expert at Yad Vashem, Israel's memorial to the Holocaust, who mourned the loss of their colleague. Chairman Dani Dayan saying the news of his tragic death strengthens our commitment to ensure that Alex's legacy and the stories he passionately preserved are never forgotten. Fighting against terror group Hamas in Gaza continues, the IDF eliminating terrorists and terror infrastructure. The IDF also called for the temporary evacuation of part of a designated humanitarian zone in the area of Khan Yunis because Hamas has embedded itself there, noting significant terrorist activity and rocket fire toward Israel from that area. The IDF said the early warning to civilians is being made in order to mitigate harm to the civilian population and keep civilians away from areas of combat. A man later said to hold Canadian citizenship tried to stab Israeli security forces guarding a Gaza border community this morning. The IDF said a terrorist arrived at the gate of Nativ HaAsara, got out of his vehicle, and threatened the soldiers with a knife. He was shot and killed at the scene. The IDF saying, "We emphasize that the suspect is a foreign citizen who came to the scene from Israel and not from the Gaza Strip." Rockets were fired from Gaza at Israeli communities near the Gaza border today. No injuries were reported. And as rockets continue to be fired at northern Israel, the IDF continues to defend its border with Lebanon, hitting Hezbollah terrorists and terrorist infrastructure. And as counter-terror operations continue in the West Bank, the Times of Israel reports that Israel's security agency, the Shin Bet, announced that it recently arrested members of a terror cell that was planning to kidnap Israelis. The agency is saying that it confiscated weapons and explosives and discovered a hole that was dug in which the cell planned to hide the hostages. On Saturday, the IDF responded to a terror attack from the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen that, as we reported to you on Friday, launched an explosive-laden drone directly at Tel Aviv, killing 50-year-old Israeli civilian Yevgeny Furter and injuring several others. IDF International spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari spoke about Israel's response.
The Israeli Air Force conducted precise strikes on Houthi military targets in Yemen. The military target was the El Khudeira port, used by the Houthis as a main supply route for the transfer of Iranian weapons from Iran to Yemen, like the UAV itself that was used in the attack on Friday morning. We will continue to defend the people of Israel from all threats, near and far.
Hagari saying Israel's necessary and proportionate strikes were carried out in order to stop and repel the Houthis' terror attacks after 9 months of continuous aerial attacks towards Israeli territory. Jewish organizations responded this weekend to President Joe Biden's announcement that he is ending his re-election campaign. The American Jewish Committee called Biden a lifelong friend of Israel and the Jewish people and noted his standing with Israel as it fights back against terror, as well as the president's ambitious all-of-government plan to combat anti-Semitism. The Jewish Federations of North America noted the president often describing himself as a Zionist in my heart and becoming the first sitting U.S. president to visit Israel during wartime, in the aftermath of the horrific October 7th attacks. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu referred to the news about Biden before he departed Israel for Washington today, where he will address Congress on Wednesday.
And I will tell my friends on both sides of the aisle that regardless who the American people choose as their next president, Israel remains America's indispensable and strong ally in the Middle East. I plan to see President Biden, whom I've known for over 40 years. This will be an opportunity to thank him for the things he did for Israel in the war and during his long and distinguished career in public service as senator, as vice president, and as president. It will also be an opportunity to discuss with him how to advance in the critical months ahead the goals that are important for both our countries. Achieving the release of all our hostages, defeating Hamas, confronting the terror axis of Iran and its proxies, and ensuring that all Israel citizens return safely to their homes in the north and in the south. In this time of war and uncertainty, it's important that Israel's enemies know that America and Israel stand together today, tomorrow, and always. Thank you.
A number of former hostages and hostage families are accompanying the Prime Minister on his D.C. visit to call attention to the hostages still held in Gaza now for 290 days. Yesterday, Netanyahu's office said that he held an in-depth discussion regarding the hostages together with the hostage negotiation team and directed that a negotiation team be sent to continue talks this coming Thursday. Well, Israel's Olympic delegation departed for Paris today, just ahead of the opening games this Friday. President of Israel's Olympic Committee, Yael Arad, said our athletes, every one of them, are here to achieve their goals. But there is another layer of a national mission. And in a video released last week, Israel's athletes made it clear they were ready, saying after the year we've had, Paris 2024, these are not just Olympic Games. Pointing to the letters ISR that stand for Israel on their uniforms, they said this year those letters take on a new meaning. I stand ready.
I stand ready for my country.
I stand ready for my people. I stand ready for my flag.
Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Monday, July the 22nd. At 7 o'clock, episode 9 of the hit Israeli series Srugim. That's followed by The Wisdom of Dr. Ruth, honoring the late Dr. Ruth Westheimer. At 8, Abigail Pogrebin is joined by award-winning author Oren Kessler to talk about his book Palestine 1936 that looks at the origin story of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. At 8:30, Shachar Azani is joined by Leah Peskin, Jonathan Huppert, and Dr. Danny Derby for a discussion on treating patients with combat-related PTSD. At 9, Jason Gewurtz is on L'chaim. At 10, it's Good Week Israel, which is also coming up next. And at 10:30, an encore of the news. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, July the 22nd, 2024. I'm Teisha Bader. Am Yisrael Chai.